Well, hello, denizens of the internet. Today, we have a new friend that we purchased. Say hello to the Sketchtop. I just bought it from the local university surplus store here. And there she is. This is a Latitude 5570. I've had a 5550 before, but never the 70. I still need to do some work. Because I don't have any power right now, but I've been assured it turns on, it works just fine. And that kind of a repair is actually pretty cheap to do. The laptop itself is $50, which is, for a laptop, pretty cheap. It is, I believe, a 6th Gen i7, but we'll find out when I get it home. So I will catch you guys again after I've gotten it home. So it's been a few days, as it normally is, and we've had a chance to monkey with this thing a little bit. Now, I'll have some screenshots and whatnot. It is, in fact, the 6th Gen i7, and I am blown way out of proportion here. This camera just says what it is. I have hands, I swear. But it is the 6th Gen i7. It originally was ordered with 16 gigs of RAM and some undisclosed SSD, which of course is long gone. Typical university equipment, the first thing they do is they yeet the SSD. It is what it is. With that though, this machine does power on and does work, which is a miracle in its own right, but it powered right into the BIOS after I got a charge. Battery is actually in pretty good shape on this thing. I've got a 2 gigabyte Radeon discrete graphics card in here, which is just phenomenal for the price. So, like I said, I've monkeyed with it a little bit. But what we're going to do is we're going to tear into this thing here, maybe talk about it a little bit, and go ahead and go through it. Because as funny as this repair is, I mean, I don't know if you can see that, but that is literally holding the corner together. It's Gorilla Glue. Somebody clearly dropped it at some point and was like, "That'll be fine. That'll do, donkey." Well, that doesn't do for me. As funny as that sketchy corner is, and that, screw as a result doesn't go into anything, we'll be addressing that because I ordered parts. So this thing came with a 1366 by 768 display, which is functional, but really ugly in the modern age. This little party trick is supposed to be a full 1080p panel for this thing, with all the accessories and whatnot, and I have had a quick go-over of it. It did arrive pretty well. It's got a nasty bite out of the corner here, some scuffing, but you know what? It's just got some attitude, is really the way I look at it. So it'll need a good cleaning, but I would say for giving it a good test, should be fine. I am concerned we're missing some pieces here, but we won't know until we get the display off. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and start doing that. And not sponsored, but iFixit does make pretty good toolkits. And in this case, should do us pretty well. Now, I will go slightly conservative on the bit size, because I don't want to strip anything out. I've also got some fresh, legendary Thermal Take TG7 thermal paste. Probably don't buy this stuff for stuff you actually care about. This will be fine. It's not great. I got it really cheap a long time ago from Best Buy, and I just need to go through it. I'll buy better thermal paste at some point. I know the Thermal Grizzly is the thermal paste to go for. So to start with this boy, we're going to flip her over. Now, like I said, this screw up here is kind of fucked. I don't really know what to do about that, so I'm going to take the attitude of, let's just pretend it doesn't exist, and we'll go from there. But go ahead and we'll spin these out. There's a few of them. It's a typical Latitude out of this generation. Really just screws. You don't have any adhesive to deal with right away, or nothing stupid. Just some screws to pop out. And I have seen the feet here, especially that one, are a little ate up, though I think it's plenty fine. It's just been drug around in the back. This is old enough to have the old Dell port replicator port, which could be nice. No USB-C or anything, sadly. That's a generation away. But that do be what it is. And I do need to look in my iFixit case, because I need me a little spudger. And usually I like using these little guitar picks. Now I've got one that's a little bit thicker. That wouldn't be a bad thing in the world. And you got a little bit of a groove right here. I'll get my hand out of the way. And it's really easy. Get in there. Try to break it loose. If you can't get in there, some of these Dells have a nice back area here. You can get the side of the thing in there and pop it. And it looks like it's kind of unhappy at the moment. There we go. And just pull gently. There's no need to get full about it. Oh, do make sure you take all the screws out. That's why you watch these panels when they come off, and she should just pop right off. Set that aside. Those are self-retaining, so they shouldn't go anywhere. I received the system with less memory in it, and this memory slot here in particular is kind of in bad condition. So it is worth noting that that on its own is kind of a problem. But it works. Did not come with an SSD, so I put this 1 terabyte WD from Wally World in it, or Walmart as the rest of the world refers to it. We have our 62 watt hour battery here, which will get disconnected here momentarily, because this thermal solution, while it was pretty good when it came out, is in desperate need of some thermal paste. So we're just going to go ahead and drive some of these screws out here. These are the first ones I'll need to keep track of. And there's another one here. Can tell some of these haven't been moved in a long time. I see that one's not. Oh, there it goes. Looks like factory blue on the thread locker. And I don't believe anything else has to come out. And so you just grab it by the little wing, pull up, that disconnects the battery. The battery should... Oh, they got another one over here, which wanted to strip out for a moment. If that does happen, you can go to a different sized bit. My bit selection here is slightly aggressive, given that I'm going to step down one. My bits are out of order, so don't judge me. That should help me a little bit as we go forward. Now this battery should lift up and out. No swelling. What'll get you on some of these Latitudes, and my camera will not like this, is this battery cable. It goes up in between the cells and it connects back in here. These tend to go bad. Sometimes the battery's still good, but the cable's bad. Sometimes it's the other way around. And when universities and stuff tend to get rid of these things, they just rip the whole battery out and just chuck it. And they don't keep the cable or anything with the laptop, and these cables can be expensive. So it's good to hang on to them when you got them. Set that aside. For this repair, we're going to go ahead and also remove the SSD. It's not super needed, but I don't really want to hurt my SSD. I just bought this one, it's brand new. We're just going to set it in there. Set the thing there. So one of the main downsides to this thing is this cooling solution is pretty beefy. You've got a pretty good sized fan. Looks like the bearings are still in pretty good shape. But all this cooling pipe is hidden under this plastic shrouding, which means this shrouding has to lift up and away. To do that, there are a lot of screws that have to come out to make it happen. Enough so that it's worth mentioning. Now, I critique manufacturers that do this, but I also know that sometimes you get what you get. I've got my replacement RAM. And for this shrouding to come out, I mean, it's not a big deal. We're changing the display anyway. So, one other nice thing to point out as well is the barrel jack up here is completely modular. It is screwed in here and plugs in here. This can be easily replaced for very cheap, usually a few bucks. You know, $10 at the most with shipping. And so if your barrel jack gets screwed up on these, you can just replace it right there. So with that, I'm going to attempt to do the cooling system and do the hinges for last. I think that's probably the best bet. So to do that, I'm also going to have to take out this Wi-Fi card. This is just a factory Wi-Fi card, nothing special. I do hate removing these, and I do pop the Wi-Fi cables. I won't reconnect them on this machine until the new display is in, because these Wi-Fi cables are, well, attached to the display. And there we go, it was stuck down a little bit with some foam. So go ahead and set that over there. The CMOS battery here can be replaced. I'm not going to replace this one because it doesn't seem to need replaced, but it's so easy to get to, it's not a big deal. And I've got a drawer over here just absolutely full of stuff. Like, I've got a drawer over here, like literally right here, just absolutely full of stuff. So I don't see any reason at all to change this right now. I can just change it later. Should have brought a drink in. You can see there was definitely some splash that happened to this thing at some point, but we're not really concerned about that. So now comes the fun of taking this plastic shroud off so we can take the heat sink off. So what you see a lot on these Dells is there'll be P and then the listing of what the screw is. And so I don't know what the P particularly stands for. I always thought it looked kind of like an F for fan, but it's not, it's a P. And so what you're going to want is taking out all of these screws. There's going to be a few of them. You'll want to keep some track of them. What's nice is they're all M2 by 5. That means they're 2mm by 5mm. And they will call them out accordingly. It's a screwdriver. So, and you'll note they're all pretty much the same size. Some will be different. If it bothers you too much, you can differentiate them, but 99% of Latitudes use like the same sized metric screw for literally everything. So there's not a lot of point in cataloging them. Just, you know, put them all in a pile together. And that's really handy. Even the hinges use the same M2 by 5s. And so really you just make a pile. Get them all together. And just keep working our way downtown. Now what's handy here is this display has a little protective shield on it, and we want to take the display off anyway, but to get this shroud off you do have to at least take the screw out. I'm going to remove the display connector, potentially, or the EDP cable. and I will leave it set over here because we're going to do the display while we're here, so there's kind of no point to not do that. Yep, and you can read here, probably not that way, but it does say battery cable for that. Now, this plastic housing does go onto this deck. This does complicate things slightly. I don't think you can remove this upper plastic without also taking down this lower plastic. It's slightly annoying, but it is what it is. Is this entire shrouding necessary? I don't personally think so. But it's what Dell is doing in this particular design iteration. And it's also looking like somehow it is tied into these, so we're going to have to take the screws out of the docking port as well. Now these are different, so I'm going to set them aside. And you don't want to get too handsy with it. You want to make sure when you're prying up on things to not pry up on things you're going to break. So, yeah, we got those wires pulled out. And yeah, so it is seam welded right here. So this deck has to come out, which means all these cables got to come loose for the backlit keyboard, the trackpad, I'm assuming the track point, and the keyboard backlight. And that way we don't smash those. Now these are M2x3s, so we're going to rock them over here. I mean, my goal is to not take out as much screwing as possible, because if I remove it I have to put it back, and I'm lazy, so if I can chicken shit my way out of taking more screws out, that is what it's gonna be. This little bridge here has to come out. I'll have to remember this guy. This is for the NVMe mount. So I'm going to take these hardware parts out and set them aside. Those two go to the NVMe. We've got more here in the palm rest of M2x3s. And P is probably for palm rest. I think what they're doing here is this is a sandwich. Okay, so we've gotten that far. We'll have to keep this in mind when we route this assembly back on. All these cables are going to have to come up and over this shroud. Now, something else that's holding this down is, in fact, the power button, or the power jack. At least the shroud is holding us back, so I'm going to take those out and set that aside. So let's go ahead and lift this up, and we're going to let these cables drop. And we're going to slide this toward us for a second, because I don't understand. Oh, so the docking port has external fasteners. So set those there. Hey, you little shit, come out of there. Stop holding on to the docking port. Now, this is going to be interesting over here, because this screw is going to have to come out, and then this glue over here is going to be a problem. I don't know how well you can see that. That's going to be a bitch. But it looks like it moves, so I'm not too worried about it. Let's go ahead and do the cooling system first. We'll take the display off later, because I'd like the display to protect the keyboard while I'm monkeying this thing around. And same with the wireless antennae. Don't rip them off, even though we're going to replace them. That is a mid chassis. Kind of fancy. Probably never been off. Definitely plastic. Definitely has some rigidity to it, and that's not even a separate piece, even though it looks like it. So we're also going to set this aside. We won't need it for quite a while, because we're going to handle this display assembly before we put that back on. So here is our main cooling fan. The heat pipes that go through here. The CPU cooling and the GPU cooling. Now I can tell you by some of that heat, I call it heat rash because that's what it looks like to me, but there's some like goop leaking out around the sides. To me that means this GPU has been run hot for a while. That could hurt things. I guess we'll know in the longer term. But I'm just going to clean it with some alcohol and pretend I didn't see that. Now the key is when you're removing stuff like this. Oh, the screws come out. That is a very unusual Dell choice. So I'm going to set that aside, and we're going to set the cooling screws there. You want to remove things in a star pattern. So you notice I took that one out, and then I took that one out. Doing the CPU here. We're going to loosen it in a star pattern so the pressure, oh, I didn't mean to take that out, but okay. Might as well. That way you keep equal pressure on the CPU die. One of the things that most people don't understand is these laptops have exposed IHSs or dies, or have an IHS on them with an exposed die. So if you just manhandle this, you'll crack the die and then the silicon's useless. Gotta keep in mind, CPUs are technically glass. So now the fun part is getting that fan connector out. They don't really give you any room for that. I got it mostly out, and we're just going to assume that's enough. It looks like there's a little bit of a lead up to it. But holy crap. I am shocked. Those thermal pads, these thermal pads, still got elasticity to them. If you touch them, they still got sticky to them. But, oh my god, that... I'm not even denting it. Yep, that is some garbage there. That is gooch. Hard shit. But the fan is crystal clear. So whatever department deployed this laptop kept the fan clean. I mean, there's not even gooch in the fan assembly or anything. Now, it could be the gentleman that runs the surplus down there actually does blow these things out, but you know, he's usually a pretty good boy. So typically what I do for these is just some alcohol swabs. They don't have to be Meyer alcohol swabs. They can be whatever you want. Even a Q-tip dipped in isopropyl would be fine. And actually, I'm going to move the screws here. I'm going to push these pieces back. We're going to work off of it. And you can just see, oh my god, how much this is just rock hard. Like, there's no cooling capacity in that whatsoever. Like, no wonder this thing was idling at like 60 or 70 C. So, definitely needing of some love. And the same with the GPU die here. I mean, just, that is factory 2015 thermal paste if I ever felt that. In fact, we're going to abandon that wipe. In fact, I'm going to move you over slightly. No. Camera. Behave. And so, how do you handle this? Now, in a perfect world, I would have PTM thermal pads. And I would just go ahead and replace all of these thermal pads, including the thermal paste, with like the PTM thermal pads that you can buy from like LTT or a number of content creators. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to apply thermal goop, because that's what I have. And these thermal pads are in okay shape. What I might do is here where it's starting to dither and split, maybe getting a little thin, I might put just a touch of thermal compound on that. And I do mean just a touch. That way it'll hold up for a few more years, and then if I come back and clean this again in 5 years, then I would rip those off and put brand new thermal pads on there. But since I don't have any, I'll just touch them up with a little thermal paste, nothing crazy, and go with that. I don't remember now. We'll see if we can get these. This is, yeah. I would say as far as the application from the factory was probably pretty good. And you know, the important part is this is non-conductive thermal paste, so I wouldn't get it anywhere you don't want it. But if you happen to get a little bit on the board, it's not really that big a deal. There we go. Score 1. Ugh. It's about as lucky as I'm going to get. And then we'll... And again, this is non-conductive, so this stuff off to the side, it's not really that important, but I like to clean it up if I can. It's not a super big deal as long as the exposed die is clear. And there we have it. Your Intel Core i7 processor. I'll put specs somewhere. There's your Core i7 processor. Get rid of that. And the Radeon discrete 2 GB. So there's the video memory for the... There's the video memory of the GPU. There's about 2 GB there. There's just gooch everywhere. Beyond that, there's not really a whole lot to talk about, so we can kind of continue with the repair if we would like. Now, while it's apart, I'm going to we might as well go ahead and do this display assembly. I've already got the cables hung out, and the cooler is off, and that shroud has to be off anyway, so let's go ahead and do that. It's not too terrible. One of the biggest things I always recommend people do is look at your actual part and determine, based upon the new part, what you're probably going to need to do for the old part. And you can see I've got Wi-Fi antennas here, I've got this, and I've got these big honking hinges. So there's screws that go in there, screws go in there, and that should be about right. So you heard nothing. So shouldn't be too terrible. Oh, and of all the brands, these trackpads are not actually glued in. There's some tape involved, but take these 2 screws out, replace your clickers. That trackpad just lays in there, and you can just take it out and replace it. Kind of slick stuff. Now, to go ahead and deal with these, so what's going to have to happen is there's 4 screws for the hinge. I've already removed the display cable. And then if I lay this up here, there's a screw here and a screw here, and these hinge covers are going to have to come off. They will probably put up a fight, specifically this one because of the Gorilla Glue, but it just is what it is. And that one was not in very tight, so I can tell a technician worked on this. Which makes sense. I'm guessing the thing took a pretty good fall hit, which is what busted the display. And I'm guessing Dell didn't cover it because the customer didn't buy accidental. Dell be like that. And it's important to keep a hold of those in reasonable shape. They do tend to bend easily as a one-piece metal part. And so, okay, well that came out easier than I thought it would. I'll have to clean that up a little bit because it's got schmutz all over it from their dingle ball repair. And yeah, the Gorilla Glue got into the hinge too. Really sloppy repair, honestly. And drop our screwdriver and rearrange our screws. So I'm going to put these up here. They are the same left to right hinge. I don't know why they're labeled as P's. I guess they're required for the palm rest to come off, but they also kind of are required to, like, oh, I don't know, remove thy display. So you'd think they would have a D on them, but no. So they're also a 2.5 by 5, so it's a good thing to remember. Hey, I told you to go up there. So with that, the best thing you can do, if you've got the table space for it, and I kind of do here, is to take the computer now as it is and open it up and lift it before you take out the screws and lay it like this. This takes all the pressure off of the laptop hinge, and once you take the last screws out, it will just drop. Now this display won't probably come out quite nice because of the display cable here, so I'll have to bend it, which tells me the going in should be flattering. There you go. One old boogered display removed. And we'll hang on to it because, you know, it still works, so if I ever have another one, I could always move the LCD panel over, or the Wi-Fi antennas, or any number of components from that screen in case mine doesn't work. And now the new one, which looks very similar, except it's not fucked up. Now, one unfortunate casualty here is when they removed the display, they left it closed, and so it'll take a lot for me to do that, but I'm going to take my hands and push, without breaking the display, those hinges open, are at the 90-degree mark. That way I don't have to deal with that. And then it is a same deal. I'm going to pull this back over to the edge, and I'll just grab it like this, and we're going to run the networking through the hole. So we got that. And the display, which the connector, you know, I double check that before you put it through. Oh boy. This is where that extra set of hands is usually handy, but we'll persevere. And there we go. Now that that's pulled through, we'll align the screws, which might take a moment, might not. And I will probably, yeah, I see I bumped in my screw tray, so I've done a no-no already. I'm going to lean this up like this. There we go. Slid right in. And I'm not going to get too uber carried away, but we are reversed here, so these two will come out, go in here. Get that started. I'm not going to tighten any of the screws yet. I'd like to when I say that, let's go ahead and pull that together. Yeah, I think those are reversed. So that one doesn't want to go in. This is what happens when you bump your screw tray. And we also don't know if this display works. So there's 0 point in trying to brute force this and put it all back together until we've confirmed a working display. Which, there's an easy way to do that. What I will do is we will just Redman-neck this back together. I'm going to worry about Wi-Fi. Need display. Power jack is there. Shouldn't be going anywhere. For my sanity, though, I will put a screw in it, wherever they went. Maybe I'll just pick one. So I can plug in, because I won't put the battery in either. Let's display. We'll need a RAM stick. Doesn't matter which one or which slot in particular. And we'll set that aside. Then the real star will be this cooling system will have to go back in completely. So since I'm already plugged in, I'm going to go ahead and fold this closed. I'm going to flip this back around to the way I had it so I don't get confused. We're going to go ahead and thermal paste this because even if the display doesn't work, cooling doesn't have to come back off. So it was just easier to do it this way. Yes. Thermal grease. Brought to you by the fucktards at Best Buy. And of course, before we drop it in, you have literally a centimeter of cable length. Thank you, Dell, for being absolute fucking chads. Oh my god. Okay, there we go. And when you put it down, you just wiggle it in place, smush it, move it around, and then put your mounting back in. Now obviously I have complicated things, as one does. So I believe most of my mounting was in one spot. And were these. The key, again, star pattern, and I wouldn't tighten it down until after all the screws are installed. In this case, I would wait until after the GPU screws are in as well. Now, Dell has a nice pretty diagram here of 1, 2, 3, 4. You can follow that as well. So that's a cooling system back together. So now this thing is postable. Not postal. Well, it might go postal. We don't know yet. But what I'd like to do is flip it over. And without getting too cute with it, in my amazing bundle of cables here, grab my Dell. Find my power port. And if possible, hosting it. Now she's going to be upset. She gave me the white lights of I might be alive. Here, a cooling fan. Now I'm probably not going to have a keyboard, but I don't care. Got it thinking. Okay. Power back on. I remember when I got this home, it was real upset. It might actually take a moment. Memory training on some of these, not okay. It keeps turning off. Come on, computer. Show me life. Hey! Yeah, I have no keyboard. No date and time set. I can't check the authenticity to the display either, but not without a magical USB keyboard, which I do have. Because I didn't hook up the trackpads. But hey. If you wanted this legitimately, what were you thinking? So we're going to go into the BIOS, go into F2. Magic! I'll just set it on the keyboard, because it is the keyboard now. Oh my god, what did this guy sell me? And it's not a 1080p display. You absolute fucktard. Well, that gets to go back. I mean, seriously, he sold this as a 1080p display. And I don't know how well it comes across on camera. Let me try to YOLO this. Look at how many dead spots are on that screen. Why are you selling it? I paid $40 for this screen, and it's supposed to even be 1080. Hold on, where's my phone? Now, right now, there's no operating system on it. I have a new friend that I think I will install on it for now. And, but yeah, I guess that'll do it. We got to deal with stupid-ass eBay sellers now and again, right? This is disappointing. I really hope the seller does something about that. But there'll be a part 2, I guess. So more content for you. But I'll get an OS on here and talk about it, I guess, in another video once it's complete. And we'll all go on a Linux journey together. Y'all take care.